Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Henry Schein Dental Academy webinar series. My name is Adam, and I'll be your moderator. Matt Kunzler is back with us today. In case you missed it, Matt presented a webinar about 2 weeks ago, comparing the intraoral scanners Henry Schein sells, as well as reviewed scan and send clear aligner workflows with each scanner. Today, however, Matt is going to further review each of those scanners and demonstrate their crown and bridge workflows. If anyone does have questions during the webinar, please type them into the Q&A section of your control panel, and we'll get back to you via email within 2 business days. And Henry Schein is not offering CE credit for viewing or attending this presentation live or on demand. Before we start, I do want to mention that if you would like to view Matt's previous webinar, please email us at webinars@henryschein.com, and we'll be more than happy to send you that recording. All right, Matt, take it away.
Hello, everyone. And for those of you that were with us last time, welcome back. Today, we're going to do a similar process for a demonstration of the Henry Schein intraoral scanners that we offer. We're going to talk a little bit about the Flex program, a program of how we help you pay for them. And we're going to dive into some of the software. So stick with me. Hopefully today, we can answer some questions. We can dive into the scanners themselves and pick out some pros and some cons of each of them, and hopefully give you a little more information than you had before. A little bit about myself, for those of you that have not seen one of my webinars or videos before. My name is Matt Kunzler. I work with Henry Schein Dental. I'm a technology advisor. I cover a large territory. I support the reps in the field, the technology reps and equipment reps in the field to help with in-depth conversation and remote demos. There's a team of 12 of us for Henry Schein that do that. Today, we are going to, again, kind of look in-depth into the scanners and scanning technology. One of the most important things that you can do, regardless of which scanner you have, is set yourself up for success. So I want to go through a couple of these bullet points. We're going to go through these bullet points real quick, just to make sure you understand what the most efficient way to scan is. So again, let's talk about a successful plan. Set yourself up for success with any of the scanners that you choose. Okay, number one, and I think it is probably one of the most important things you can do, is make sure your scanning tip. So let me take one off here. The tip of your scanner and the lens of your camera are both clean and dry. We want them to be free of debris, and we want them to be crystal clear. It's important. I wear glasses. I said this in last time. If my glasses are dirty, then I don't see as crisp and clear or well as if they were clean. Same with these scanners. So no matter which scanner you have, it does not matter. Make sure that the scanning tip is clean and dry and is ready to scan. Put yourself in a comfortable ergonomic position. I actually prefer to stand. In some of the videos I've done, I'm always sitting. I just prefer to stand, but for the video's sake, it's easier for you to see if I'm sitting. Put yourself in the most comfortable ergonomic position that you can. What I mean by that is, if you like to stand, stand. If you want to sit, sit. But have the screen across from you, not behind you. That way, in this case, for crown and bridge, if you're chasing an interproximal contact, you can see what you're doing when you're scanning without having to turn around. Be aware of your neck and your back and all those moving parts that go bad over time after years of sitting in the chair. So please do those things. Set yourself up for success. When your crown prep is done, please retract the tissue. I say please. Retract the tissue. You need to be able to see your margin. If you can't see your margin, the scanner can't see your margin. Now, it doesn't really matter which way you decide to retract the tissue. You could use cord. You could use your your paste, like Traxident or something along those lines, your chemical application, you could use a laser. Whatever you're doing today, you can continue to do. But we need to make sure that that margin is exposed. And if it is not, then you're not going to have a clean margin at the laboratory, and they're going to struggle to get you a restoration that fits perfectly. Just like today, if they can't see the margin, you're not going to have very much success with your restorations. Start scanning on the most distal tooth, occlusal surface, and work your way forward. I do that with each of the scanners. Again, it doesn't matter which one. I'm not trying to start more forward in the mouth and working my way back and then working my way back. I'm going to start back to front, across, buccal, and lingual. Okay, so just a simple tip, but one that I find very important. It's not a race. Smooth and moderate paced scanning is ideal for me. There are others who disagree, and I'm not the fastest scanner out there. Again, for those who have watched the other videos, I know there are people that are faster than I am. But when I'm scanning, what I'm trying to do is get a complete scan the first time without having to go back in. Now, some people will disagree with that. They don't mind going fast and then going back in to fill in data. I'll show you what that looks like later as we start scanning. Again, I know this is a big slide with lots of words. We're going to go live with scanning and into the software. So hang with me for just a couple more minutes. Retract the cheek and lips no matter what surface you are scanning. I find this to be so important. Again, to me, it does not matter which scanner you're using. Retract the cheek, retract the lip as you're scanning. If you're just giving the if the software does a great job of cutting out cheek and tongue and all those things, all you're doing is giving it a faster processing time. If it doesn't have those things to cut out, if it doesn't do a great job, it's saving you time from trimming the model manually. So always keep that cheek and lip retract. We're not going to be doing live scanning today. We're going to do live scanning, but on a model. I would love to do live scanning, but I'm not a dentist, and I can't just prep a tooth and do the scanning. So we're going to do it on a model. If you're interested in seeing the live scans, you can go back to last week's webinar and look at live scans from each of the scanners, all of the ones that we're presenting today. If I didn't mention that, which I don't think I did, it's going to be Emerald S, the KAVO X700 powered by Medit, the Trios 4 wired wireless system, and the Primescan. That's what we're going to be doing, comparing the 4 scanners today. It's okay to take the scanner in and out of the mouth after you've started scanning. It does a couple of things. One, it allows you to reset your retractors. In my case, it's usually my finger that I'm retracting with. B, it gives the patient a chance to take a breath and make themselves more comfortable as you're scanning. Again, these scans take between 30 seconds and 90 seconds to capture. But nonetheless, we should be aware of our patients in the chair, or you should be aware of your patients in the chair and their experience throughout this. One of the great things about scanners is they enhance the patient experience. And so we want to make sure we're doing that. Okay, we're going to work with the Planmeca Emerald S first. A couple bullet points about it. It uses, all of the scanners use a HIPAA compliant format to get the information from your scanner uploaded to a cloud somewhere and then downloaded over to your laboratory. In this case, they use Romex's cloud and a combination of, they could use DDX as well. So depending on what you're scanning for, the lab capabilities, I know you don't know what DDX is. We could talk about that another time. But basically, it's a HIPAA compliant format of getting your information to your laboratory. Nice part about the scanner, it has a replaceable cord. So all I do is twist. You heard the little ding in the background. And I can now, if this cable breaks for whatever reason, it can be field repairable in seconds. There's nothing to it. So we just plug it back in, twist, and now my scanner is ready to go. The scanning tips are, I pointed this out just earlier, twists off. The scanning tip, they are smart. They actually count how long they've been in use. And they also are heated. And so that prevents fogging when you're scanning in the mouth. This one does come with 2 different sizes. It's unique in that sense. So if you have a patient that opens big and wide and you can capture more information at one time with the standard scanning tip, if you have a patient that does not, then you can use the smaller tip for that particular patient to capture the information. Along those lines, when we start talking about why would I just not always use the smaller scanning tip? Seems like it would be more comfortable. Well, all of the scanners, size matters when it comes to the scanning tip. And so the reason that you've seen that scanning tips actually get a little bigger over the years is because it's capturing more data at one time. The more data you capture at one time, the faster you're going to be able to scan. You don't have to take several passes to get all that information. So, of course, the more information you get at one time, the better we are and the faster we are with the scanner. Also, it increases accuracy. Less images to stitch together and have a potential cause of error. They are autoclavable scanning tips. All the scanners today will, except apart from one, which is the Primescan, we'll get to that one here shortly, have autoclavable scanning tips. This price of this system is under $30,000, depending on the promotions, can be less. They even have some recertified scanners in stock that bring that cost actually down quite a bit. So if you're interested in something like that, we could always have that conversation as well. All right, so a few more bullet points about Planmeca, and then we'll get into the software. One of the things that makes it unique is it has an all-in-one software platform in Romexis. We're going to look at that in just 1 second. Can be a complete CAD system. When I say complete CAD/CAM system, what I'm trying to say is the software, the design software, the scanner, and the mill are all manufactured by the same manufacturer. So Planmeca makes all of those devices. They work together. They're uniform. That's what I mean by complete CAD/CAM system. Any of the scanners can be sent out to a lab software paired with a mill. But for a chairside solution, complete chairside solution made by the same manufacturer, that is what I mean by that. Within the software, it has a lot of measuring tools, model comparison, meaning taking one scan one day, another scan years later, overlay them, and you can see things like cusp wear, tissue loss, and tooth movement. Has model building capabilities. In the last webinar, I showed you that as well. That is how you base a model. Basically put a base on it so that it's printable if you have a 3D printer or are interested in 3D printers in your office. Occlusion mapping, prep analysis, convert to STL, PLY, and other. These are some universal things that you're going to see from most of the scanners. And they also have two-dimensional smile design software. Let's go into the software. So this is your home screen. I'm going to select my patient. You can see as I select my patient, whatever I've done for this patient, whether it be a CVCT, a 2D X-ray, intraoral camera image, I think I said 3D CVC. I said that already. Again, not striving for perfection, not expecting perfection. The model's capability, which I demonstrated last time, that's where we're going to scan again today. And then CAD/CAM. CAD/CAM is if you had their design software, their mill, you could do chairside dentistry in single visits. So I'm going to go ahead and select this patient. So it happens to be me. I'm going to go into models and I am going to scan. Okay, now that we've gone into our models, here, let me go ahead and get this going. Okay, sorry about that little delay. We're going to start with the upper, as you can see there. I'm going to do so. We are going to scan in for prep on tooth number 11. You can see the great speed of the scanner. If we compare this to last week, you'll notice it's a little faster. You can imagine it's always going to be faster on a model. Well, I should say, generally speaking, it's going to be faster in a model than it is in a live patient mouth. I think I prefer the way we did it last week, which was I could talk over the video rather than scanning live. But that is not something I can change now. So here we go. Okay, I'm actually going to stop here because when we're scanning for crown and bridge, it's a little different than when we scan for ortho. You'll notice I'm missing a lot of data here. In some of these cases, I definitely want to go back and get this, like this buccal surface. Apparently, I did not scan that very well. So I want to go back in and scan that. But like some of this, if I'm scanning for 11, what I really care about are interproximal contacts, margins, and obviously this buccal surface. So we're just going to go back in real quick, and I am going to scan for that. So one more pass down the buccal side. I think with all of the again, I'm talking over the video is certainly ideal, much more ideal than trying to scan and talk all at the same time. I think I just forgot to scan that buccal side. So that is not even a technical error. That is what you would consider a user error. And I've been known to make those. Okay, so if I'm scanning for crown and bridge with the scanner, I care about the margin and these interproximals. Okay, so I'm going to pretend like I didn't have to go in and scan that buccal one more time. And now I'm doing my evaluation. This over here, don't necessarily care about because that doesn't affect anything with the occlusion and it does not affect anything with the crown. So what I like to say and how I like to say it is be picky about what you're picky about. So the most ideal way to scan is I'm going to turn my scanner like so. This really does work in the mouth, I promise. And capture those interproximals from that way. The other way you can do is go onto the buccal surface and tilt the camera this way, tilt the camera that way. You can do the same thing from the lingual. Just imagine you're trying to capture the interproximal surface. You're a little person in the mouth. I want to be looking at it directly. Well, that's this direction. How do I get there? That may be a terrible analogy. It probably is. But that's kind of how I think about it. How am I going to look at that straight on? That's what the camera needs. And so that's how I'm going to angle the scanner. It takes a little getting used to. It doesn't take a lot of getting used to. It takes a little getting used to be able to scan those preps. Okay, so now I'm going to generate the model. The more information you scan, the longer the generation of the model takes. So in this case, maybe we shouldn't have done a full arch for the scan. I just wanted you to see what that looks like. But in most cases, you can just get away with a quadrant. What I would say about scanning versus, let's say, digital or traditional impressions, I get asked a lot, if you have to have a full arch scan. The answer is no. I would say whatever you would want to do in your regular traditional method of getting the impression, you would just want to keep doing. So if you're doing a bridge, yeah, you might want a full arch. If you're doing an anterior like this, you may want to go premolar to premolar. If you're doing a molar, maybe just a quadrant. It's all about what you would normally do. That's what I would suggest that you continue to do. But on the other hand, these softwares are so smart. If you want to be able to use the comparison tool in the future and keep this as a patient record, then go ahead and take that scan. I'm able to click one button on the scanner itself, and it brings me to the lower. Okay, so now we'll do the lower. I wasn't paying attention earlier. Hopefully you could see me scanning. So what I do on a model in the mouth doesn't really matter. I like to scan the occlusal first. I think every scanner company is going to tell you to do the occlusal first. When I go by the anterior part of the mouth, more forward in the mouth, I'm always trying to kind of mind that lingual side, meaning I get a little more information on the lingual side than I would than being perfectly straight over the teeth. The reason for that is I just said the scanner has more to look at as you're scanning. And so I'm able to capture all these interproximals. You know, I got to tell you, doing some of these videos, you're really aware of all the things that you say. It's an interesting for me to go through this. So I'm going to go into generate model. Again, just one click, it's going to generate that model. I'm now going to go down to the buccal bite. But hopefully this is giving you an idea of the capability of the scanner and then where to go from there. You know, once this is done, there's a variety of things that I'm able to do. As I mentioned earlier, you have your HIPAA compliant format that's able to send out to your laboratories. You also can convert to STL or PLY. That's like JPEG or MP3 for those that have not heard that term before. This is just it's a file share. It's a common file format for this. It's a standard file format for these scans. Okay, so with the Planmeca, see how quickly that model popped in? And that's how we correlate the bite. Okay, and we'll go ahead and generate that model. And then we're gonna switch back over to the software, look at the things that we can do with it. In this method right here, we can see the contact points before we ever switch over to the other software. Okay, so right now, the first thing it's doing is asking me to define my occlusal plane, which I'm going to do simply. So all I have to do is select 3 points. 1, 2, 3. You notice it wanted me to do that on the other teeth, but they aren't there. So the point in saying that and showing you that is there are some rules, but you know, there are more suggestions than there are rules. So we just got to think through some of the issues that could arise in your practice. And with experience, that comes, no problem. Again, here are all the tools. But I think for time's sake, we're not going to get too much into them because we still have 3 scanners left. And I want to make sure we highlight those as well. So let's go back into our PowerPoint. All right, so let's go back in and okay, so that was our Planmeca. Again, we saw some of those features of the software. Let's move on to our KAVO scanner. Second scanner coming right up. The KAVO X700. Okay. Some of the features that we're highlighting here, again, replaceable cord. I think it's a really great thing. For those of you that have had an intraoral camera or something along those lines, have the camera cord break. You know how inconvenient that can be. And so to be able to field replace that or order a new one and just have it the next day is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Okay, so tip. Comes off, can be autoclaved, can be turned upside down or on the lower. So whether we're scanning up or lower, we can keep our scanner with our same grip. I also like that feature. Sounds like a little thing. Maybe it's a little thing. Maybe I'm just impressed by little things. Entirely possible, but I do like it. Under $25,000 price point, you know, that's it's impressive. It's an impressive scanner for the price point. There are pros and cons to all of them. So just keep that in mind. If you want to dive in and see some of the pros and cons and, you know, what a higher price point gets you versus the lower price point, you know, it's up to you. Whether the lower price point makes the most sense for you because it's adequate for what you're trying to do, great. I'm in. I just want to help you make a good decision. Don't feel like you have to spend the most amount of money. Don't feel like you have to spend the least amount of money. There's some good ways of identifying what you need and then get you to that versus just basing everything off of price. Price is important. Don't get me wrong, but some things may not be completely there for you if you base it all on price. Okay. Dtx Studio compatible. Dtx Studio is an imaging software that does 3D, 2D, similar to what Romexis does. Occlusion mapping, comparative, model builder, ortho simulation, smile design, prep analysis, convert to STL, PLY, and a slew of others. So depending on what your needs are. So let's go into the software. I know I kind of breezed over that, but it's a lot of similar information to what we've already discussed. So as we go into our software, we are going to do a new case. It's going to ask us for which patient. I'm just going to use myself. And then we say register and scan. So we're following the software here. Not a whole lot of mystery to any of the softwares. All right, now I will say I was a little confused when I first started with the software. You see down here, teeth and arch. If I'm doing an ortho case, I want to click on arch. If I want to do a crown, bridge, or other, I want to select teeth when I'm filling out your prescription. This is your prescription. So rather than filling out your lab slip, this is now your lab slip, okay? It's one of the great parts of this is less paper to track. Again, the model is tooth number 11. We're going to do a full coverage crown. It's going to be an anatomic design. We want this made out of Emax, and we're going to choose the shade of A2 because everything looks like A2. Well, at least I hear. In my opinion, it's one of those chameleons. So I love A2. You may disagree with me. I'm not a dentist. So from a patient's perspective, I like it. As we go into our setup page, our pre-op, this is a really neat feature of pretty much all the scanners. You can take a pre-op scan. And what that allows you to do, if you consider a couple of scenarios. One, you have a patient that's in aligners or has a night guard or has a removable partial denture. And the tooth that is needing to be prepped fits under the partial. Again, they all fit into the night guard or whatever. But that tooth needs to be prepped. What do? You have to do a whole new partial denture? Do you have to do a whole new night guard? A revision in an aligner case? Well, in this case, we don't. What we can do is take a pre-op scan and then send that to the lab and say, make me this tooth. One of the great features of this software and scanning. I suppose you could do that if you took 2 impressions of your patient, one pre-op and one post-op. But with the scanner, it's all built in. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to choose our pre-op scan, tooth number 11, and we're going to go into scan. And if I did this right, the scanner will be working. You just never know. Sometimes I forget to do things. Oh. Like turn the scanner on. I forgot to do that. There we go. All right, boy. I'll tell you, scanning live like this, anything can happen. And so, boy, am I glad that worked. So give me a second here. Here is the scanning screen. It was on my other monitor. Again, pardon the imperfections here. So here's the scanning screen. Right down here, you're going to notice a couple things. It's surveying the device. It did this with Planmeca as well. It's going to tell you whether the scanner is ready to go. It's all heated and good, whether it needs to be calibrated or not. All the scanners have calibration devices. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to follow the same modality. We're going to scan the upper pre-prep. In this one, I'm going to do it with the scanner tip upside down. You notice when I took it off, it told me, hey, your scanner tip is not there. So I'm going to scan, sorry if you didn't see the other one very well, just like this. I thought I pushed the button. There we go. See, I thought I pushed the button. Maybe I didn't. So again, I'm pretending like I'm looking in the mouth, and the monitor is not really in my view. Okay? It is in my view if I just lift my gaze a little bit. Lift my gaze. That's a weird saying. If I just lift my eyes a little bit, I can see that. That's what I mean when we're going after interproximals and so forth. We want to have that monitor across from us so that it's convenient for us. I mean, set yourself up for success. Again, if there's a little downtime in speaking and scanning, while I'm used to it a little bit, it's not as easy as it looks. Okay, I'm going to come in and capture the interproximals of this crown prep. I'm going to do it in the same way I did before, which is turn the scanner, turn it on its side, turn it on its side. You'll notice the different colors as I'm scanning. That's indicating whether you have enough information or not. So I'm going to come in here, and actually I forgot, we're pretending like that tooth is not prepped yet. So pretend like that tooth is not prepped yet. That's what I would tell you to do at this moment. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and shut the scanner off. We're going to ignore that. Yes, I have external light. You probably want to be able to see, well, maybe you don't want to see me, but you're seeing me anyway. So I have external light. It was telling me, hey, it was pretty bright when you were scanning. Now we're going to go to the lower. We can do this upper lower bite. Now, one of those things about doing a pre-op scan is if you think that the scan or the bite is going to get better after you prep the tooth, then I suggest you do the bite after you prep the tooth. If you're concerned that they're not going to get the bite quite right at the lab, if you take the bite after the prep, take the prep before. So that's what we're going to do in this sense. We're going to take the prep, we're going to do the bite before. Imagine being able to take the bite on your patient every time when the patient is not numb yet. So before you prep the tooth, before you start anything, as they're getting numb, you can scan upper, lower, and bite. Again, trying to be aware of where I'm at so you can see me scan. You can see how the scanners keep up real well. I know this is a model. For those that were wanting live scanning, I apologize. Go back and watch some of the videos I've made or others have made. It really does work very well. I would say it takes, yes, a little more time. Not a lot more time if you set yourself up for success like I've described. But honestly, I have scanned full arches very complete in 30 seconds. I generally choose not to because I want it to be very complete. I'm a little OCD that way. Maybe you're not, but I am. So I want the most complete scan, and I don't want to have to go back in for it twice. I feel like taking a little extra time up front is worth it. You may not. That's okay. Okay, now we're going to do the bite. Close this guy up. And we're going to scan the bite. Oh, that's not right. Let's see if that corrects itself. That is not going to correct itself. And so we're going to delete that out. I have learned in my years and years and years of doing these demos, not every demo goes according to plan. So we're going to try that again. And hopefully it works this time. Hey, that's better. Now, if this were pre-recorded, I would cut that out. I'm not going to, because things happen. And, it's better, in my opinion, for you to see the real life stuff and how to deal with it. So how do I deal with it if it doesn't pin? Well, you can manually pin it. But the other thing is I can just delete that out and try it again. Don't panic. Stay calm. It'll be okay. I promise. Can it be a little embarrassing? Yeah, I feel it right now. I wanted it to work the first time. It didn't. I have to deal with it. That's life. So now I'm going to do the other side. You saw down here, maybe you didn't see, I clicked on the bite 1 is done. We're going to go into bite 2. Okay, that one worked really good. And if you can't hear, my wonderful dog is trying to jump in on my door to get into my office right now. Isn't that wonderful of her? Well, she can't come in right now. And again, there's just another one of those things that I'm going to have to deal with for a minute. Apologize if that's annoying. All right, here we go. We're going to redo the upper, but first we're going to cut out that area that we need to cut out. So I'm going to come into my brush tool, and we're pretending, again, please remember, we're pretending like this is a tooth that has not been prepped. And so the software is going to cut that out real quick. Okay. So pretend with me, if you would. And so now I'm going to go in and scan just that one little area. No need to scan everything again, just the one little area that we scanned. So we're going to come in, start on an adjacent neighbor that we recognize. Of course, I need to lift up the scanner a little better for you. I apologize. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and scan again interproximally. And what I am 100% concerned with is the margin in the interproximals. Of course, I want the buccal surfaces, the occlusion, all of those things. But when I'm scanning in the prep, 100% of the margin and interproximal contacts. That is the most important. And you can see there are so many tools here. For example, undercut analysis. I'm going to go ahead and say that this is the way the crown is going to seat down. So this is your path of insertion, or whatever you want to call it. If that were the way the crown were going to sit, it's giving me an undercut analysis that says, no, you can't see the crown that way. So I'm going to use it from an automatic view. It's going to figure out where exactly this is going to sit, and then give us an idea if there is an undercut on the prep. So I can also change that, like you saw. If I said, no, this is the way the crown is going to seat down, then you can see there's no undercut. Okay. Lots of tools. I can't stress to you enough. I could spend an hour per scanner, but we really do need to move on. So we're going to now close out of our Medit software by checking that box. If you do want to see more of these tools, well, we are here. That is what we are here for. So we have all these scanners. We have all the software. This is interesting. It's telling me, hey, you're missing a bunch of interproximal information. Remember what we're talking about when it comes to scanning for prepped teeth. Be picky about what you're picky about. Don't worry about it. If it's not directly affecting the restoration, unless you're a little OCD like me and you just want everything perfect, then we can just skip past this and we can move right by. Okay, so now it's going to go ahead and analyze that. All right, I am going to, while we're doing this, it's saving, so give that 1 second. I'm going to start opening our Trios software as it is up next. So we're going to let this open. All right, that was our KAVO scanner. Let's move into Trios. All right, Trios 4. Here it is. Okay, if you want a size comparison, they're all roughly pretty close to each other. This one's a little longer because the battery's sticking out, but they're all pretty darn close. If we go to Primescan, which is over here in the corner that you probably can't see, we'll get to that one in just a minute. I saved it for last because it's a whole different computer that I got to present from, and we'll do that last. Okay, Trios 4, communicate portal. Very powerful tool to be able to communicate with laboratory on cases. Again, HIPAA compliant, free way of information. It also works with DDX. I know I've said that a couple times. Don't worry about it. If and when it's time for you to pick a scanner and want to know more about DDX, we will cover it then. It is wired and wireless. Battery comes out. If for some reason your batteries didn't charge the night before, it comes with 4. I would plug in my cable and I'm up and running. So very simple. Nice feature to the scanner. Again, wireless meaning I don't have a cord from the camera to the computer. It's done wirelessly. It's very convenient. Autoclavable scanning tips. You can take them on and off, turn them upside down or lower, upper scanning. Smart heated scanning tips. Price range varies. For Trios 4, the price point is around $35,000. You can get a Trios under $25,000 with virtually the same scanning speed, same scanning speed and same accuracy. There you go. For under $25,000 in the Trios 3 Basic. We're going to talk about, maybe a little bit of what that looks like. So really what that is you have, it can be paired. This can be paired seamlessly with many mills. So I'm going to stick to the talking points that we started with last time. It's not a complete CAD/CAM system in the sense that it does have its own design software. It is meant for chairside, but you pair it with a third-party mill. There's some pros and there's some cons to that. So if that's something you'd be interested in, we could discuss that in further depth. But there are some pitfalls to doing it that way. However, there are some huge benefits. Treatment simulation, compare tool, smile design, patient-specific motion is really neat. It's articulating the patient's bite, not virtually, but you actually scan in and videotape the patient making their movements, grinding front, back, side, side, and it shows up on the screen. Very, very neat. For many folks have thought that was just a game changer. Add-on software is available. Implant Studio for surgical guide design, Clear Aligner Studio for designing your own clear aligners, Indirect Bonding Studio, self-explanatory, design your own indirect bonding trays, Splint Studio, your own splints, and Design Studio is crown and bridge and veneers, etc. All right, let's go into the software. Let's see if it's been loaded up now. Yes, it has. Okay, we're going to go into my case. We are going to do a new case. I need to turn the camera on and make sure it's paired. Because it's wireless, I didn't have it paired up with a computer prior. I wanted to save the battery. That's one of those tricks. If you get a wireless scanner, one of the tricks to think about is to save your battery life. All right, it is green. You probably can't see that, but that green light indicates that it's paired with the computer. So do these indications here. And up here, you can see it has 84% of the battery life remaining. So on the fly, if your battery dies, you can plug in a new one, resync up to the computer in one push of a button and continue scanning. It's not a game changer. It's not like you have to start over. We're going to do a new case. We are going to tell the software, A, where is this going? Is this going to be in-house for 3D printing or other? Let's just go ahead and choose a laboratory here. We're going to tell it what tooth we're working on, tooth number 11. And we are going to do a crown, Emax, and our shade. I like A2 because it looks like everything. And our pre-preparation, we have that same pre-preparation ability. So we'll go into our scans. This, we start with the lower. That's how it prompts us. So tells us we're ready. Here we go. You can see that only took about 24 seconds. If I'm being fair, in the mouth with all the things, it generally takes me between 45 seconds and 60 seconds. If you watched the webinar last time, it took me closer to 90 seconds because, well, I hadn't been set up for success. The scanner screen was behind me and so many other things, but I'm good with that scan. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that. This has a wireless feed also. I can click and hold and go next, so I don't have to touch the keyboard or mouse. And as I'm sitting here thinking, I'm not really talking. I am wanting to make sure you can see the speeding capability. I also feel like you're getting the picture here of all the scanners that we have to offer. Oh, see, and I scanned the upper, even though I shouldn't have. So, all right, that's okay. I can come into my tools and I can say, oh, I can't say because, oh yeah, no, this is right. I did this right. There's tooth number 11. You notice it's saying, hey, you're missing a bunch of information here. This information I care about. I obviously did not go in and scan the lingual side. So let's do that. Again, I'm thinking more than I'm scanning. I apologize for some of the rookie mistakes that I've made today. Again, we're pretending that that is not a prepped tooth already. That's why we had to mark the tooth with this tooth number 11. Let me do that again. I'm going to remark it. I want to show something very important about this one. As I mark the tooth, you see the blue outline? So if I move this just a little bit, see how that blue outline moves? That's what the software is going to cut out automatically. If we compare this to our previous scanner, we had to go in and delete it out automatically. We could do it that way too, but this automatically does it for us. So we'll say done. So now we're going to do the bite. And we could do the bite on both sides, but I think you're getting the point here. I am going to go ahead and just do the one side so that we can get into our CEREC software. And we can spend a little more time on tools. So you can see right here, in this view, I can go ahead and turn on our clearance tool, just like we could with the others. I don't know if I highlighted that in the Medit software, but of course it has an occlusal map. You can see here, this is the occlusal map also. We can also come in and take a look at it to make sure that there is enough clearance between, hence the word clearance, your prep and the opposing before we move on. Some other nice tools in this software. I'm actually going to go into the prep now, and we'll get into some of the other tools. Okay, this is a really neat tool. Others have it also. So if I missed it on your scanner, I apologize. I can come in and see how the software went ahead and deleted this out. I'm going to start on the adjacent. I'm going to capture some of the interproximal. I'm going to leave some of the interproximal out. Okay, let's pretend that, and I actually captured it all. Of course I did. I'm going to come in with I'm going to just come in here and say it wants to know where tooth number 11 is. We're going to do that again. I'm going to come in and trim out, let's say, this part of the margin and this part of the interproximal. Let's say I didn't capture that. We're doing a lot of pretending. I apologize. But let's say I didn't do those. I didn't capture those things quite like I wanted to. But everything else is good. You're concerned that the patient is going to start salivating tissue and it's going to fill up in the sulcus. The tissue is going to collapse and it's going to ruin the margin. I can come in here and say lock surface. And all I have to do is click on preparation. You see this white area? None of that will change now. So if I have a clean, clear margin, I can go ahead and save that information. Even if the patient begins to salivate, even if the tissue begins to retract, it doesn't matter. That's going to be saved. So now all I have to do is I can't change what's already there, but I can add in new information. So for example, you see how I filled in that new information. You see how I filled in that new information, and the rest of it remained the same, including my nice clean margin that I worked so hard to prepare and so hard to separate the tissue. We don't want to lose that work. Okay, so that's one of the nice features of this scanner. And on the fly, I kind of feel like that's what we should do is highlight. I think we've highlighted at least one high point in each of the scanners. So I'm hoping to do that. I sincerely hope I'm giving a nice, fair evaluation to each of the scanners. I am now going to go back into our presentation. I hope I didn't miss anything, guys. Maybe I did. I apologize if I did. If you want a more in-depth demonstration of everything the scanners can do, please feel free to reach out to myself or one of the technology advisors to dive in deeper. And I know we're kind of running long a little bit, so let's get through some of this and then some question and answer. So I apologize for for too much information, maybe, or not enough. I guess I can apologize both ways. Dentsply Sirona uses the Connect online portal. It has a steel scanning tip. This technology has been around a long time. It can just be disinfected without going through the autoclave. It has a heated scanning tip as well. Basically, all of them have some preventative manner to make sure that you're not getting fogging in the mouth. If you missed, I say it again, if you missed it, go back, watch the other one. You can see live scanning. Disposable scanning tips are available if you chose. Again, comes at an extra cost. So the autoclavable, or the fact that they can be disinfected without having to purchase more supplies each time you use it, I think is a good thing. I like that. I personally like that. I'm gonna in this one, I'm gonna outline the large focal distance. This is really an advantage for Primescan over the other scanners, so I'm gonna highlight that. It scans incredibly deep, and I have a good way of showing you what that looks like. Can be a complete CAD/CAM system. It's the most popular CAD/CAM system, of course. Most number of indications for chairside dentistry. Ortho simulation, ortho software with lots of bells and whistles. Compare software, again, putting those two models together. Occlusion mapping, of course. Prep analysis, of course. Convert to STL and PLY. And now I'm going to take just a brief second here so that I can stop that share and I can go over to my Primescan and share over here. Okay. All right. You should be able to see that now. Okay. We are going to go into our patients. And we are going to choose, well, let's just, our test patient, let's go ahead and add a case to that. And tell it what we're doing. Again, we can choose our laboratory. Boy, that is working a little weird. We can choose our laboratory here up front, or we can do that later. We can do crown inlay, onlay, veneer, implant, full contoured, or veneered. So we're just going to go with our crown. And then we're going to select a tooth, of course. That's what I'm missing here. Tooth number 11. You can see here down at the bottom, define restoration, select material. So we're going to go ahead and choose our lithium disilicates or whatever you would choose for that area. You can choose which shade guide you prefer. I'm going to go with classic and, of course, A2. And a stump shade if you'd like. We're just going to call it the same thing. But you can add more information if you'd like. One thing to note on all of these scanners is you fill out your prescription pages. You can also add notes. So if you wanted to add additional information than what is requested, you can do that as well. All right, I'm picking up the wrong scanner. We'll move over to this one. And we will move into acquisition. All right, so it's asking for the upper jaw first. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're just going to pretend like we're not going to do a pre-op scan. If you watch the scan, you can see like when it sometimes gets misaligned, it fixes itself on the fly. See that? Just keep watching that space in the anterior and it fixes itself on the fly. It's pretty darn amazing. I find it to be really incredible, especially for new users. You can see how much information it's capturing at one time. I'm not going to focus in on the prep too much right now because you've seen it over and over with the other scanners, and we're going to highlight the benefit of the prime scan. I'm going to act like this is the prepped tooth that we're working, and I'm going to capture the interproximals the best that I can, and I'm going to stop there. Again, it would have been the same for the others, but I want to highlight something right now before we move on. So one thing I want to highlight is that if you consider that it scanned that implant site from the top down, and this is what you get. It scanned all the way to the apex of that implant. Now, does that matter? Do you want to scan down to the apex of that implant? I can't think of too many reasons why you would. But if you consider some gingival preps, if you consider some of the other indications, shiny amalgam neighbors, this is just an indicator of how well it scans shiny objects with great detail and clarity. It's very impressive, if you ask me. We'll go back to the prep tooth. I don't want to belabor that too much. You can see I missed a little bit right there. I don't want to miss that. So I'm going to come back in, start scanning. I'm going to fill that in real quick. Again, it's just as easy as that. With any of the scanners, just come back in and redo it. Now we're going to go to the lower. I also think while the Prime Scan is one of the bigger scanners on the market, you can see it captures an incredible amount of information at one time. That's one of the major benefits of having such a big scanner. Again, and I say again a lot, I watched that in my last webinar. I'm really trying to cut down on that, but I have yet to figure it out. So what I would say is that it captures a lot of information at one time, which allows you to scan faster. Oh, I'm touching the wrong screen. That was funny. Okay, we're going to do our buckle bite. You can see in a similar format as all the other scanners. Just scan it. You can see it pops into view when it's ready. And we will turn that off. We will go into our modeling phase. You can see the software, it just walks us through. We have acquisition, now we're modeling. Modeling is the same thing that we were doing with the Planmeca scanner, where it was generating the model. With the Medit, it was optimizing the model, I believe is what it said. With the Trios, it post-processes before it sends to the laboratory. So they all have their version of those things of post-processing. I think probably for time's sake, maybe we want to just move into, let me go ahead and stop the share here. And we're going to go back and share my original screen. Let's go back into our presentation. Here we are. And let's move on beyond that. I want to be respectful of your time. So the Flex program, one of the last bullet points, and then we'll get into a little bit of Q&A. Henry Schein Flex program. I think the best way to describe it is we're not trying to flex. We want you to flex your buying power. It could be flexibility too. I guess it's really never been explained to me what it means. I think about flexing muscle and I think about flexibility. What we are trying to do is be flexible and let you flex your muscle with your buying power. All we're trying to do is give you a method to get the supplies you need and help you pay for the scanner you want, just like the thing says. Incremental spend. If you're buying supplies from Henry Schein already, if you start to purchase or use reveal clear liners, that counts towards what is considered incremental spend. 10% of your incremental spend goes towards the payment of your scanner. So for simple math sake, if you have spend the same amount of money that you normally do with Henry Schein each month, and you add one reveal clear liner case, let's call it $1,000 lab fee, $100 of that is going to go towards the payment of your scanner. Again, $100 or 10% of that is going to go towards the payment of your scanner. If you don't do any business with Henry Schein and you spend $0 with us, if you spend $1,000, 10% of that is $100 will go towards the payment of your scanner each month. If you spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, if you spend $5,000 a month with Henry Schein's in your supplies that you're already buying from someone, and reveal liner cases, and I know a lot of your offices can do a lot more than that, you can get a scanner for free or heavily discounted. Either way, it's a great program. We want to help you flex your buying power by being flexible. I think that's the only way I can describe it. So that is the Henry Schein Flex program. I hope I did a sufficient job of explaining that. Let's go into a Q&A. Adam, do we have any questions?
Thank you. We do have a few. First one here is, when you're using a scanner, do you still have to pack a cord?
I think we covered that just a little bit before. The answer is not necessarily pack cord, but you still have to retract the tissue. So if you can't see the margin, neither can the camera. Generally speaking, if you can see the margin, so can the scanner. This is where some of the differences lie. Some scanners have a larger focal depth, meaning they can scan deeper than others. And so that's one of those things. If you find yourself going subgingival more often than not, then we want to pair you up with a scanner that scans super deep.
Do all laboratories accept digital scans?
Majority, I would say at this point, would certainly have to accept scans. If you're doing zirconia is a digital process. And so if you're prescribing zirconia right now, then your lab is digital in one form or another. If also, they have different softwares that they use. So, talk to your lab also about what scanners they prefer. Most labs say, we accept all scans. But you can convert these files to STL, PLY, and many other file formats. So regardless, pretty much any lab should be able to work with you with a scanner. So I'm going to say, yes, there is a method for a lab to work with you if you have a scanner.
All right. What else could I use a scanner for besides crown and bridge?
So we touched on ortho a little bit. Removable partial dentures, fully edentulous dentures. I think that's coming in the future. They got some things to work out. You can use it for implants. I didn't go into implant restorations, but man, implant restorations are just the best with a scanner. I'll describe it briefly. You scan in your implant site with your healing cap in place, upper, lower, and bite. Then you can simply scan in, after you remove the healing cap, the emergence profile, or that gingival mask, that beautiful tissue without it being disturbed, so that the lab can then create a custom abutment for you with undisturbed tissue. It's an amazing thing. Then lastly, you put in your scan post or scan body. Sometimes that can disturb the tissue, but really you've already got that beautiful gingival mask. That scan goes out to the laboratory, and the lab is happy. Your patient's going to be happy. You're going to be very happy.
And with this next one, maybe you hinted at it earlier, but maybe you didn't. Does the mouth have to be completely dry when you scan?
Depends on what you're scanning for. If I were scanning an ortho case, doesn't have to be completely dry. You don't want pooling saliva anywhere, but it doesn't have to be like, go in with an air water syringe, or you don't have to go in and pat everything down with cotton or anything like that. You just want it to be not pooling in that sense. For a crown prep, we want that to be dry. Blow the sulcus out with a little bit of air. If there is some sort of anything in there, make sure that the tissue is retracted from the margin. All of those things are good standard protocols. Yes, we want the sulcus and the margin to be dry as you can.
All right. And then our last question that we have time for today, which scanner do you ultimately think is the best?
I can't really answer that. They all have pros and cons. And for each individual, let me start over. Let me say it this way. What is important to you may not be important to others. So depending on what you're scanning for, we could pair you with a scanner that is most appropriate for you. It depends on so many different things. So the best way to figure out which scanner is right for you, you saw today, they're all very capable. But to figure out which one is right for you in your office, we'd love to have a conversation with you. Just a quick conversation to understand what kind of dentistry you're doing. Let's talk about your lab. Let's talk about your preps. Let's talk about your ortho. Let's talk about your all the things. Let's get it all out in the air. What do you want it to do? And then let's pair you up with a scanner. That is the ultimate goal. As I like to say, not in this way usually, but there's a bottom for every seat. So I would normally say that a little differently, but I can't because of this. I work for Henry Schein, and that wouldn't be good. So there's a bottom for every seat. Let's figure out which seat your bottom belongs in. Okay. That's how I would say that. Let's just figure out what exactly it is that you need, and then we'll pair you up with a scanner.
Thank you, Matt, for another phenomenal breakdown of the scanners Henry Schein sells, as well as what their workflows look like. If anyone would like to get in touch with Matt regarding additional questions on this topic, or if you're interested in adding an intraoral scanner to your practice, please email us at webinars@henryschein.com. As a thank you for attending, everyone will receive this recording via email sometime in the next week. Thank you all for joining us, and have a great weekend.